I went through life totally disassociated and frustrated, and I didn't know how to experience pleasure in my body and in my life. And it was really clear to me that you were the type of person that I would be able to be real and vulnerable with. I had all these really deep questions about who I was and how to really land into my body and experience pleasure. And so it was an incredibly formative time period of my life where I started questioning some of the things that I knew to be true. And so your courses were incredibly informative, but also just they met me right where I was in a personal space where I could really dive into those deeper questions about who I am and how I want to express myself in this world. And actually, that was the very beginning process of me coming out as transgender. And so it was a really formative space and time in my life where I felt like you could really hold me as a client and allow all of me to exist in that space and just get curious with whatever was arising in the moment. So I just have a deep gratitude for you and the spaces that you hold and the safety that's there.
I am curious when you talk about being in your body and like finding out what is
Mm.
true for you as you've been on your journey to emerging as the wonderful, amazing, handsome Ayce that is sitting here right now. Like, what are some of the things that stand out about how you've learned to occupy yourself and how you stay in connection to
Yeah.
your body, whether that's just like moving through your day in and day out or specifically in intimate situations, like anything that stands out as a highlight that you really took away from our experiences together?
Yeah. So I never felt at home in my body. And I remember the very first time that I was on your table, I was incredibly nervous and vulnerable. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, let's do this, right? And at the very beginning, you're like, let's just bring breath into the space and be present with what's arising. And that's been a really big piece of my journey is learning how to land in my body and experience the present moment just as it is and how things are arising. And so in my intimacy and with other people and in the way that I relate, it really is like, how can I just remember to bring myself back into my body and experience this moment right here, right now, and be really present with myself and whoever else is in the room. And that was um, it was an incredible experience to be with you in a room, completely vulnerable, and to be able to breathe and to drop into my body and feel sensations that I didn't really know how to process or to feel. And we didn't really have to know the story behind what was going on in my mind and my experience. We could just sink into the moment and just be present right there. That was a really transformational time for me.
Mm.
Another piece of that was I remember going into our session, I felt I had a lot of dysphoria going on. And I was really frustrated with my body. And so the idea of being at home in my body didn't feel great because I didn't love my body. I didn't
Mhm.
love the pieces that I had, the parts that I had. There was like
Mm.
this disassociation from that.
Yeah.
And I remember you meeting me there in such a tender way and just saying, okay, this is where we're at.
Mhm.
Like, how can we bring pleasure into this space?
Mhm.
And how can we start to have radical love for our bodies and what we do have and what is showing up right here?
Mm.
And that session was so transformational for me. Like, I think back to it now and it's like, I don't know if I'll ever go back to being disassociated as much as I actually was in that moment before I hit your table. Simply because there was a piece of me that learned to love the body that I have right now